Okay, so imagine this, right? You're in a courtroom, totally intense, and someone's whole future is on the line.
Yeah.
But then, out of nowhere, the defense attorney pulls this crazy move,
What? What?
says their client they couldn't help it.
Couldn't help it.
Couldn't help it because free will, it's all just an illusion.
Whoa.
How would you even react to that? It's wild,
It
right?
really makes you think. Yeah.
It's like it gets to the core of what we're diving into today. Do we really have free will? Or is everything already decided?
Yeah, like, are we just going through the motions, just pre-programmed?
Totally. And to really explore this, we're going to be looking at this book, Do We Really Have Free Will? Catch a title,
I
right?
like it, yeah.
The Truth About Choice, Fate and Illusion.
Ooh.
And what I thought was so interesting is how it uses like these everyday examples
Okay.
to make you question like the choices we make all the time.
Yeah.
Right.
Like what kind of things?
So, okay, picture this. They start with like your favorite food.
Okay.
Say you love pizza.
I do. I do love pizza.
But is it really your favorite? You know?
Right, right.
Like, or is it from your childhood? You know, or the culture you grew up in?
Yeah,
Maybe even your genes.
it's true. You think about those things. Like environment.
Totally. And they even bring up this example, the cilantro gene.
Oh, yeah, right, right.
Some people, like, they're genetically predisposed to hate cilantro.
Yeah.
It's in their DNA. It just shows you, like, how deep some of our preferences are.
It makes you wonder, like how much of what we call choice is actually like out of our control.
Right.
Totally.
Like, it's not even a choice. And it gets, like, even more complicated when they talk about big choices, like religion.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
Right. And most people, they inherit their beliefs, right? Like, they're born into it.
It's true. Family, culture.
Yeah, if you're born in Italy, you're probably Catholic.
Right.
Born in Saudi Arabia, Muslim.
Most likely, yeah.
So is it even really a choice?
Right. Or are you just following like a path that's already set?
Totally. It's predetermined almost. And then there's the big one, career paths.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone's always telling us follow your passion. But what if those passions like are influenced too?
By other things, yeah.
Totally. Like family, right, expectations,
Mm-hmm.
money, the skills you were born with, even just dumb luck.
Yeah, circumstances.
Circumstances, like the book saying, even our career dreams might not be as free as we think.
Right. Like is follow your dreams just a nice idea? Or is it real?
Exactly. And then it gets really wild.
Okay, what?
Love. The
Well,
book
okay.
goes there. It's saying that even who we're attracted to could be influenced by like subconscious stuff from our parents.
Wow.
Pheromones, even,
Biological factor.
biological factors, yeah. And our past, all the past experiences.
Yeah, that history. It all adds up.
So even when it comes to love, we might not be totally in control. I mean, it's kind of scary, but kind of freeing too, right?
Yeah, I see what you mean. Like, is it fate? Or are we choosing?
Exactly. Okay, so maybe our everyday choices are more influenced than we think. But what about the huge ones, the life-changing decisions?
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
It's got to be from our conscious will, right?
You'd think so, right?
Get ready for this. There's this experiment. It's called the Libet Experiment.
Okay.
Back in 1983.
Okay.
They hooked people up to brain scanners.
Whoa.
Asked them to move their finger, like whenever they felt like it.
Simple enough.
Super simple. But the brain activity for the decision,
Yeah.
it happened before they even knew they were going to move.
What?
A fraction of a second before.
So like the brain decided before they even knew it?
It's like our conscious experience of making a choice. It's
Mhm.
just a story we tell ourselves after our brain's already decided.
That is trippy.
Right. So all day long, our brains are making choices, and we think we're still deciding.
It's like we're on autopilot.
Totally. And the book, it doesn't stop there. It goes on to explore all these other experiments that kind of back this up.
That there's more.
There's more. Like this guy, John Dylan Haynes, 2008, he could predict what someone would decide, like 7 seconds before they knew it.
7 seconds. That's incredible.
And then there's Daniel Wedner. He said our feeling of conscious will, it's often an illusion.
Wow. Like where minds are just trying to make sense of what our brains are already doing.
Exactly. Okay, so the science is making me rethink everything.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in.
But what about the philosophers? What do they say about all this?
Well, this has been a big question in philosophy forever.
Yeah, for sure.
The book does a good job of laying out all the different ideas.
Okay, hit me with it. Who are the main players in this whole debate?
So on one side, you've got determinism.
Determinism.
Yeah, no free will at all. Every single thing, every choice, it's all because of stuff that already happened.
So it's like we're just puppets. Fate is calling all the shots.
Basically. Spinoza, Harris, even Nietzsche. They all thought this way.
No room for, like, personal choice, responsibility.
They'd say we're just playing out a script that was written, like, at the beginning of time.
Intense. Okay, so who's fighting back? Who's on team free will?
Okay, on the other side, you've got libertarian free will.
Libertarian free will.
I
Okay.
say humans, we do have real freedom. We can make choices, totally independent of anything else.
So we're not just, like, products of our biology or our upbringing.
Exactly. Sartre, Kant, William James, they were all about this.
Wow, this is heavy stuff. But is there like a middle ground? Like, can we have free will even if our brains are deciding stuff before we know it?
That's where compatibilism comes in.
Compatibilism.
Yeah, it tries to bridge the gap, says maybe they're not totally opposite.
So, like, we can have both free will and a determined system.
It's tricky, but they say even if our actions are caused by other stuff, we can still feel like we're choosing and make choices that fit our values.
Okay, I'm trying to wrap my head around this. We've got science saying our brains are in charge, and we've got philosophers arguing about if we have any choice at all.
Yeah, it's a lot.
So where does this leave us? Like, where do you stand on all this, hearing all this?
It's complicated, right? There's no easy answer, and we've only just scratched the surface here.
Yeah.
This is just the beginning.
And believe me, it gets even crazier.
Oh, I bet.
So come back for part 2. We'll dive even deeper.
Can't wait.
Welcome back to our deep dive into free will. Last time, we were talking about how even, like, the smallest choices might be influenced by stuff we don't even realize.
Yeah, like tons of factors under the surface.
And that Libet experiment, whoa.
Right.
It made me think about all those times they're making decisions without even knowing it.
It's true. Our brains are always doing stuff behind the scenes. Like imagine you're driving to work
Okay, yeah.
and your mind is like totally somewhere else.
Yeah, happens all the time.
You're lost in thought, but you're still driving, right? Changing lanes, maybe even fiddling with the radio.
It's true. I never thought of it like that. It's like I'm on autopilot half the time.
Exactly. And there's actually a term for this in psychology, automaticity. It's how our brains do things without us having to like actively think about them.
So it's like our brain being efficient, which makes sense, I guess. But then it also makes you wonder, if so much of what we do is automatic, where does conscious choice even fit in?
Right. It's like, are we really in control or are we just running on a program?
Big questions. And speaking of big questions, last time we talked about a few different ways philosophers look at free will.
We did, yeah.
There is determinism, libertarian free will, and then that middle ground, compatibilism.
Right. Trying to find some common ground.
That one really got me thinking. Can we unpack that a little more?
Sure. Compatibilism, it's basically trying to say that free will and determinism, they don't have to be total opposites. Like, maybe even if everything is caused by something before it, we can still have a sense of choice and do things that match our values.
Okay, yeah.
You mentioned Hume and Hobbes earlier.
I did, yeah.
They were big on this.
Could you give us some examples of what they thought?
Absolutely. Let's take Hume. He said our actions come from our desires and beliefs, which come from our experiences, right? But he also said we can think about those desires and beliefs, like weigh our options, and then make choices based on what we think is right.
So it's like we're playing a game, right? The rules are already set,
Yeah,
but we can still make choices within the rules.
exactly. Like think about chess. The rules are always the same, but every game is different because of the choices the players make.
Right, right. Okay, I see what you're saying. But it still makes me wonder, like, how much does our conscious awareness actually matter?
Yeah,
If our brains are deciding stuff before we know it, does our conscious mind even get a say?
that's a great question. And it leads us to another philosopher, Daniel Dennett.
Okay.
Dennett says our conscious experience, it's kind of like a storyteller, but it tells the story after the fact. Like our brains make the decisions,
Mm-hmm.
and then our consciousness comes in and tries to explain why we did what we did.
Wait, so you're saying my conscious mind is just making stuff up to explain what my brain already decided? That's crazy.
It is pretty wild. It makes you wonder what the point of consciousness is if it's not really calling the shots.
Right. Why even have it?
Well, Dennett thinks it's still important for evolution. It lets us think about our experiences, learn from mistakes, and make better decisions in the future. It gives us flexibility.
So even if our conscious mind isn't always in control in the moment, it still helps us learn and adapt.
Exactly. It helps us shape our behavior over time. Like when you first learn to drive, you have to think about everything, right? Steering, braking, shifting gears. But eventually, it becomes automatic.
Yeah.
And then your conscious mind is free to focus on other things like traffic or enjoying the scenery.
That's a great analogy. So maybe with practice, we can start to notice those automatic processes, like our habits and biases that we don't even realize are affecting us.
Yeah, that's the idea. It's about becoming more aware of how our minds work. And by doing that, we might be able to change those automatic processes, make them line up with what we really want.
So it's not about pretending our subconscious doesn't exist, but about understanding it and using that knowledge to make better choices.
Exactly. And maybe that understanding can help us feel more free, more in control.
This is all so fascinating. It feels like we're just scratching the surface here.
We are. There's so much more to explore.
I bet. So join us for the final part of this deep dive where we'll try to put it all together and see what conclusions we can reach. All right, so we're back for the final part of our deep dive into free will. We've covered so much ground: science, philosophy, even how our brains make decisions.
Yeah, we've gone deep.
So where are we now? What's the takeaway from all this?
Well, it's been a journey, that's for sure. We started with simple choices, then found out our brains might be deciding before we even know it.
Yeah, it's a lot to process.
And then there's the big questions about choice, responsibility, what makes us human, all that.
I gotta say, when we started, I felt a little lost.
I get it.
Like, too much info, so many different ideas.
Yeah, it could be overwhelming.
But talking it through, I actually feel like things are making more sense now. Or at least I see how complex this all is.
It's true, it's a really complex idea. It makes you think about things in a new way.
Totally. And looking back, one thing keeps coming up for me: awareness.
Yeah,
Like, if our brains are making choices automatically, maybe the key to having more freedom is becoming more aware of that, of what's happening in our minds.
I think that's a great point. Maybe true freedom isn't about controlling every little thing.
Yeah.
It's about understanding the things that influence us, the conscious stuff and the unconscious stuff.
So instead of feel as stuck because of how we were raised or things that happened in the past,
Yeah,
we can start to see those influences, those patterns, and maybe even make different choices.
exactly. It's about being aware of how our minds work, like shining a light on the stuff that's usually hidden.
I like that. Shining a light, like we're taking control back from the autopilot.
Right. But it still makes you wonder, if we can't escape our subconscious completely, are we ever really free?
Yeah, that's the big question.
It is, and there's no simple answer. But maybe the point isn't about proving if free will exists or not. It's about taking responsibility for our choices, realizing we have the power to act.
So less about proving it, more about understanding it.
Exactly. Knowing that even though we don't control everything, we can still shape our choices, our actions, and ultimately our lives.
It's like we're sailing on the ocean. We can't control the wind or the waves, but we can adjust our sails, learn to navigate, and head towards where we want to go.
That's a great analogy, and that's really empowering, I think.
It is.
Free will might be a mystery, but exploring it helps us understand ourselves better, our potential, and what it even means to make a choice.
So for our listener who's been with us this whole time, what would you tell them? What's the big takeaway from our deep dive?
I'd say, don't worry about finding the perfect answer. Embrace the complexity, question your assumptions, and keep exploring how your mind works.
It's not about feeling overwhelmed. It's about using this knowledge to make better choices, be more aware, more in control.
Exactly. And the conversation doesn't stop here. There are so many resources out there, books, articles, other podcasts even.
Keep learning, keep thinking about it.
Right. Challenge yourself to think differently about what free will means.
And maybe through all that, we'll find a better, more understanding way to think about what it means to be human.
Well said. This has been a great conversation.
I agree. And to everyone listening, thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring.